super loose. That's super loose. Alrighty, getting underway only a minute late tonight. It's a lot better than last night. And still, though, people don't ready up in time, of course. Finally underway in Japan. One of my favorite tracks, might I say. Love Japan. A lot of people hate Japan, and specifically Sector 1, but I love Japan, and especially Sector 1. So, I don't know. My thoughts on tracks typically are a lot different than other people. I don't like Beiran. A lot of people do. Some are meh. I hate it. Zandvoort, absolutely despise Zandvoort in Hungary. But Japan, beautiful. The liveries, beautiful. The racing, beautiful. The action, beautiful. The layout, fun. Except for Sector 1, people don't like it. It's very, very tricky. Looking through the grid tonight, not a whole lot of double team. And now Iceman is in for Nora, it seems to be. Dami, a new driver in the Haas. Taylor, familiar face. And as well as Baja, Moski, Deathwing, F4, Dior, TD, that man, all familiar faces. 12 people, one less than yesterday. Kind of weird. The Haas and Ferrari of F4 opting to jump out, and most notably, Mint has not jumped out. So Mint and F4 are kind of exchanging who jumps out. F4 possibly wanting us to watch him for that first lap. He might know now that we're right on board with the first person doing a lap. So we see a Red Bull come out of the pits. It is Dior. Dior is saying that they are a lot more confident tonight, and last night they didn't have their racing line on. They turned that assist off, and that is now back on, and that they have a lot of pace here. So I think we have another contender at the front of the field tonight. Trying to get my headphones in a comfortable position here. A lot of drivers a lot more comfortable around Japan compared to Bahrain. A lot less tire degradation going on, and just a well-rounded, smooth track. Feels a lot more comfortable than that of Bahrain to a lot of drivers. The overtakes, though, become slightly harder as Bahrain has, what, three DRS zones. 3 DRS zones in Bahrain, and one short one here in Japan. Penny, for your thought, do you think that they should add a second DRS zone through that little back straight? I think they should. I think you honestly get more speed through there without DRS than on the main straight, as F4 is lining up his first lap of the night. First one to start one of the grid. You see the Haas behind and the Mercedes and Cake possibly arguing over who goes out first. As he dives down into turns 1 and 2, comes out very nicely on the curb, holds it through 5th gear. I have not seen drivers do that before, but this guy definitely has more experience than I do. See now, yeah, there's a lot of difference in mine and his lines through Sector 1, I can't lie, but hey, if it works better than mine, who am I to say? See, gets a nice shallow line coming up the hill, down into the heavy curve, whipping the car around, trying to get it to turn as much as possible and get it to rotate. Coming up is the tight hairpin. See if he can slow the car. A little bit of front left lock from him. Coming into the braking zone, but gets away very nicely. A little bit of a late upshift coming out of 4th gear. And we will head into the square corners that I like to call as they kind of form a box. Holding very nicely on the curbs, hitting the apex on the throttle as early as possible to get a nice exit. He was very close to track limits there. I think he held it very nicely. He is still going, as we do see an Aston Martin of iRacing noob ahead. Maybe a mini slipstream. Don't really think it's too much that he would actually be giving. Heading down into the last couple of corners through the chicane and across the... Ooh, a big moment of oversteer for F4. So he crosses the line 27.3. That's a very, very good lap time. Dior looking to answer. He's the next driver to cross the line that could compete for pole position. He sees a Kick Sauber ahead of him. Very nice black and purple helmet on him. Yo, quick question. Is the soft usable here? End the race for a one-stop? And Dior does go faster by a 10th. Oh, for a one-stop, no. But for a two-stop, yeah. I'd say so. It's a lot better than Bahrain for sure. I don't remember if I did use a soft tire throughout it. iRacing Noob actually invalidating his first lap. Fortunate for him. But it is a lot less tired if you can keep Sector 1 in line. If not, you're really going to struggle on the softs. Honestly, use the qualifying to gauge where your tire wear might be at. Would be a good way of doing so. But, yeah. You can get away with it easier than in Bayron, but you're still not going to like it. Mint looking to get up into the top two of Dior and F4, two of which are within a tenth of one another. Mint disqualifying himself last race after very frustrating contacts with a few drivers. Lost his front wing and then had a moment in a corner twice. So he just kind of gave up. Can't really blame the drivers for that. It is very frustrating. See, he comes down the questionable no DRS back straight into the flat out left-hander. We see Mint coming into the final chicane. We'll see what kind of lap time he can do. Looks like we will have some very, very nice camera angles coming through there. As Mint crosses the line, it will be 27.266. We question if he can put himself there, and he has put himself smack dab in between these two drivers. Very nicely done from him. He will certainly be wanting pole position, but this is for sure a good start. Deathwing found himself with a 28.5, 1.2 seconds off of the top three, but holds out for P4. Moski with a 29.1, an additional 6/10 off the back of Deathwing. What in the world is Bayron, bro? Last race was China. I just did a Bayron race and another league. So that's probably why I'm referencing Bayron. It's probably why, as my computer loses FPS, as it always does. But China, yeah, China also sucks on tires. That's for sure, especially in the wet. Iceman, P5 behind Deathwing, only off by a tenth. It would be very lovely if my computer will get itself sorted. And there it goes, it's starting to catch back up. iRacing on a out lap now? Hot lap? No, out lap. Yeah, sorry about that. I am out of it today for sure. Yeah, so it looks like iRacing pit for some new sauce. Probably, I would assume so, seeing as how it does say out lap. Baja still in the pits, that man still in the pits, TD on an out lap, Dami on a hot lap, as well as Taylor. Dami looking to set a name for himself on his first DLR race. We'll see where he can find himself on the grid. Not necessarily pushing as hard as the other drivers through that corner would seem, coming up through the hairpin, getting it nicely on the apex, and a clean exit from him. See yellow being thrown through the first sector where the McLaren crossed the line with a 29.6 behind Moski. Certainly looking to pick up the pace there. Dior on a outlap already. Might be opting for 3 laps instead of 2, or to get their second lap done early on. Haas opting for a downshift on the exit of that corner. They might be running some weird wings. There we go. Not quite sure if the downshift there is what the other drivers are doing. We'll have to pay attention. I don't think it usually is, as he finds himself P4, and the 27 times off the back end of the top 3 is a very good time for the Haas. iRacing Noob yet to cross the line with a time coming through Sector 1 now. Will want to find himself in the 27s at the least. Anything else will probably ruin his chances at a podium as he invalidates again. He cannot hold it through that corner. It seems to be the second time that he invalidated it coming through the end of Sector 1. That is not what that Aston Martin is going to want to see. He will have one chance possibly to get it right if he did burn a set of tires. That man, the Chinese Grand Prix race winner, getting a lot of understeer coming through the middle of the S's, comes up the hill. A lot wider of a line than F4, typically the kind of line that I like to take. Takes a lot of curb on the entry. We just saw iRacing Noob invalidate his lap time from going too wide through there. might be running too tight of suspension and just can't move the car like he wants to. With a tighter suspension, the car won't be able to flex over the corners and rebound as easily, so it's a lot more snappy coming off and onto them. Coming into the square set of turns, that man looking to at least pick up another podium in that Red Bull. His teammate Dior on a provisional pole on his second lap so far. He is just ahead of him. Actually, we'll ride on board with him as he finishes up his lap coming through the chicane. We actually did miss if he takes that. That's also interesting. He does not take a lot of curb and he dives into the pits. Okay. Dior abandoning that lap. That man looking to finish his out strong. Puts himself provisionally P5, 28-1. He'll want to find himself into the 27s for sure. iRacing Noob going once more, has not invalidated himself this time, picking up a lot of curbing and locked onto it, looks like. Comes up through the hairpin, but critically he is not invalidated and he is on a partial scrub set. These tires won't be perfect, but they will do. Baja on a outlap now in the Mercedes ahead of iRacing. I believe that's to be him, yeah, his teammate is in the pits currently. iRacing parking on the apex, getting a very nice exit, possibly a mini slipstream from Mint ahead. Might be a bit too far, or is that his teammate Iceman? I believe that to be Iceman, possibly ahead and not Mint. So he is going quite slowly, so hopefully that Alpine will pick up the pace as they come through the chicane. Looks to be so. iRacing Noob comes down the hill to cross the line. He will find himself with a 28-0. We said he wanted to find himself in the 27s critically, and he is just on the cusp of it. Baja coming up through the S's now. We will cut to who was at Mint and F4, both on hot laps. F4 with his teammate behind had just let him through. F4 takes provisional pole with a 26-8. It's a very, very nice time for him. Mint and Dior are going to have to find some serious pace to take that pole position away from him. Mint seemingly behind or ahead of Baja. Which Alpine is that? Mint is ahead of Baja to finish the lap. Yeah, so Mint holds it through 8th, where we saw the Haas drop it to 7th. We were questioning which way the drivers will be taking it. 26.8 is a very, very good time for the Ferrari as Mint goes to the pits. He is not happy with where he was at on that lap. Baja seemingly struggling possibly with his wings a little bit. Didn't quite have the control over the car that he might have wanted through there. TD, the teammate to F4 who's on provisional pole, finds himself P10 so far with a 29.2. That is not what Ferrari will be wanting to see for sure. As Baja comes down the hill, he looks like he might have flat spotted his front left. He does a 28.1 behind That Man. There is some very tough competition. Iceman behind, also a 28.1. So far, we have 3 drivers on 28.1 times. That is very, very interesting to see as TD does come out of the pits finally. Baja letting Iceman through, even though Iceman was not on his hot lap. So, top 6 on the pits currently. Mint boarding a lap. Dami only setting 1 lap. And iRacing Noob setting only 1 lap on 3 attempts. Not quite sure how many sets of tires he did burn doing so, but he did go for it 3 different times. That Man and Baja and Iceman all within 0.08 of one another. That is going to be some close competition to get up to P5 or P6. Mercedes looking for another good points finish, 7th and 9th provisionally so far. Moski so far in the points. TD looking to find himself in the Ferrari into the top 10, currently P11. Kenzie in the McLaren finishing a hot lap now, P12, jumps to P10. Starts within the points, but not the amount that you would want to see. 28.7 on the back end of Deathwing with a 28.5. Puts himself comfortably ahead of the kick and the Ferrari, but both will be looking to find more time. So you see the Ferrari getting out of the way of a Mercedes of Deathwing. Was that Deathwing? No, that was Baja. Not quite sure why he let Baja through so harshly. Ferrari now on this should be a double invalidated lap, is parking himself in the middle of the track for some reason. Not quite sure what he's doing. That surely is against a few DLR rules, I would say. Surely he comes into the pits at the end of this lap after double invalidating himself. Out now, Mint, Deathwing, and Moski. Mint just now starting his second. This is his third attempt, second hot lap. We will see if it will be his last or if he won't even be able to finish it and dives into the pits. We did see him abort one lap already. This guy knows when to play it smart and when not to. Coming up through the S's, we see some tire trails. Maybe someone had gone off or getting out of the way. Mint looking to find a fair amount of time to be able to get pole position from F4. See a Ferrari ahead of, I believe that would be TD, who should be on a in-lap or setting himself up for another hot lap. Hopefully that Ferrari gets out nicely. So far he has not, and will be giving this Alpine quite a little tow as he does finally get out of the way. Heading into the double left-hander, Mint picking up a lot of curve compared to other drivers that we've seen. That might have been an accidental early entry. He still gets away nicely. I think this should be a lap that he finishes out as long as he can keep the last few corners clean, getting over as much as he can. Early entry, carry as much speed as possible through 8th gear, and then climb all the way down to 2nd gear. So you see Mint come down the hill. We will see what kind of time he can set. It is not pole position. It is a 27.0, 2/10 off of F4's time. Dior on a outlap now to answer up, as well as Dami in the Oz. iRacing still in the pits, might be calling it with that. Eye that man out, Baja out, Iceman out, Deathwing on a hot lap, Moski and TD all on a hot lap. Sorry. As Deathwing comes across the line a lot wider than most other drivers. He only picks up one more position, but it is another time in the 28.1s. We are going to see a very, very close competition between everyone for P5, I believe, ladies and gentlemen. As iRacing Noob does come out, he is going to have to do some serious corner cutting, though, I think, to be able to get this lap in time. Moski finds himself P10 with a 28.5. TD still coming around track. I believe Dior should be starting a lap soon as he is warming the tires coming at the end of the back straight. Very, very nicely done from P5 down to P9, all within a tenth of one another. That is something that you don't usually see. Some people there are going to be very happy with themselves, and others are actually going to be very upset with themselves. So that will be interesting to see who ends up where in their feelings at the end of it all. A lot of caution flags being thrown as drivers cut the corners to try and make it across the line in time. I'm trying to see how much time is left and watch that Aston Martin on the map. Iceman retiring after possibly putting himself in the wall. Time remaining is none. iRacing Noob will be out then and did not have time to set another lap, I believe. Yes, he did not. He did wait too long. Mint as well as done, as well as the McLaren. That man crosses the line 27.6. Taking P5 from iRacing Noob. Dior and F4 both on outlaps, one after the other. So we will see if anyone can pick up a position. TD unable to find any more pace for another position. Does a 28.9, finding a few tenths of improvement, but no positions gained. That is not what Ferrari will want for sure. Baja 28.1 as well. I think he might have retired himself or something. It looks like, too, that Ferrari had stopped the car in Sector 1. Not quite the best way of going about it. Stewart comes through the final chicane. We'll see if he can take pole position. Dami putting himself P3 with a 27.1 behind Mint. Dior does take pole position by 2/10 over the F4. Very nicely done from the Red Bull, as the Ferrari was not able to find any more time. It looks like he might have actually been on a invalidated lap by the looks of things. That only leaves the kick salver of Moski, who crossed the line in time but did not retire, so it's technically on a lap that we are waiting for. So he might be a little bit confused out there, as every other driver will be on AI mode. I think he's looking to start another lap as he burns his battery. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what that kick salver is doing at the moment. He is reversing now, and now he's going for... My goodness, okay. Yeah, I think he's wanting to start. No, and now he dives into the pits instead of going across the start line, which would have been faster. Okay, that puts DR on pole, followed by F4 in the Ferrari Mint P3, Dummy P4 with I That Man and P5. From P3 to 5, we're looking at 27s, and P1 and 2, only drivers able to crack into the 26 times, and quite a big gap between the two of 2/10 between P1 and P2, and then another 2/10 to P2 to P3. But interestingly enough, P6 down to P9 at the end of things were all within a tenth of one another. iRacing knew frustratingly the podium sitter from last time is finding himself P6 after a tough going quali, unable to get a lap done twice. Looking at the order once more, we see a Ferrari sandwich of almost everyone except for Dior finding himself outside of F4 and TD's Ferrari sandwich. Ferrari certainly not too happy with that finish. Mercedes will be looking with a decent enough smile as they start P7, P8 will be good points for them as we talk to them, and they said that consistency is key for WCC. Red Bull in the best position for big points with a P1 and P5 starting position. Check out the Discord real quick, see if anyone was really frustrated at people for impeding, so we don't really get to see most of that. F4 actually saying that there was a Mercedes parked on the apex and that he had to invalidate his lap time, so that's why he was invalidated on that last lap. Other than that, though, it does not look like many incidents did occur, thankfully. As the drivers have finally agreed on tire pressures and race strategy, they will be starting the formation lap. We'll go ahead and take a look at what the tire choices for everyone will be. Looks like we have a decent enough split of medium to hard runners. Notably, of the top 5, the only person on the hard tire is F4. That will be very, very interesting for his race strategy, especially with early on safety cars. Being on the hard tire is very, very bad. iRacing Noob finding himself P6, might be going for a desperate strategy, starting on the hard tire as well. Deathwing on the hard with Iceman behind. Both Ferraris actually opting for the hard tire. That might have been a strategy call inside the team. That might have been a team call for them. I could see TD being on the hards, but F4 starting on the hard tire, that's... I don't like that call. In my experience with the tire pressures I run, which are probably, to these guys, incredibly wrong, I always have a hard time getting the hard tires around here to fire up. The mediums are very good for me in the opening stages and fall off quickly and then settle in, but the hard tires in those first 5 to 6 laps are really bad. And with Mitt and the Haas behind F4 and needing to attack Dior, it's going to be very, very crucial in this opening stage of the race for him. almost actually every other driver besides F4 in the top 5 is going to be on the mediums. So I think he's going to be a threat to at least P4, and if P4 opens up the gap, that man could definitely squeeze through. But this race start will definitely be interesting. Baja starting on the mediums behind iRacing Noob, who will be on the hard tires. Might be a problem for him as they were on similar pace at the start of the race, or start quali. So we wait for the final cars to come to grid. We will be on board with Mint for the start of the race, as he is a little bit further back, a particular favorite for the championship, and should provide a pretty good view heading through the first couple of turns, as we see Moski taking his absolute time in the kick Sauber. Notably, that McLaren of Taylor McKenzie is angled in awfully sharp, as well as F4 angled in to Dior. As we do see the lights start to come on, that McLaren awfully sharp on the inside. We might see some early on positions from him. 5 lights on, and away we go. Dior looking to have a very good start over the Ferrari. The Haas, and as we already see, F4 falling out. He is now at threat from, and he's spun. Him and the Haas have made contact and spun. That man is up to P3, Baja up to P4. The Kick Sauber is on iRacing Noob. Somehow, that Kick Sauber has found himself up to, I believe it would be P5. That will certainly be frustrating for iRacing Noob, as he is currently falling down the order. Not quite sure what is going on. This is what we said about the hard tire compound, that it does not fire up, as we see every single hard tire driver falling down the order rapidly. This is what we said was extremely crucial in these opening stages, as we see Moski just pulling away from iRacing Noob and at threat behind to the McLaren of Taylor McKenzie. Now, it will be very, very critical for these guys to get those tires fired up as fast as humanly possible. Looks like the Haas of Dami is going on the outside to inside of the Alpine. Dami making that contact with F4. Not quite sure who was at fault there. We would have to launch that back to call. Mint still hanging on to the back of Dior. That man falling out DRS. Hi there. Yes, it's hard to forget. Baja in the DRS of that man for a podium position. Those medium tires firing up very nicely on the Mercedes. iRacing Noob outside of the DRS of the car behind, at threat to the McLaren as they look to be going side by side into turn 1. The McLaren tucks back to the inside, but the Haas bolts to the inside. We might see some more action as the Haas looks to climb back up the order to try and get back to the podium. We see a mini DRS train forming on iRacing until those hard tires can fire up. Taylor defending beautifully so far from the Haas behind. Certainly frustrated and will want to get through as quickly as possible, as iRacing Noob will be holding up the order somewhat. Baja falling off the back of the Red Bull somewhat. F4 getting through Iceman. Iceman actually falling back behind Deathwing, goes wide, as well as TD. TD not really showing a whole lot here today. As we see the Haas once again off track, has possibly made contact again and went off the track once more. iRacing Noob started P6, still P6. He needs to catch up to the cars ahead. It looks like his tires might be finally starting to warm up and might be finding pace, as we see the rear end of the Kick Sauber kick out on the exit. Ahead, Mint closing crucially onto Dior within 3/10 of him. We will definitely be seeing a move coming down the main straight or the end of it. Dior kicking out the rear end a little bit on the exit, trying to get as much grip as he can. As we go on board with Mint, he tucks in nicely. It looks like Dior will want the inside, but Mint knows that it's more strong and is trying to take it from him as best as he can, but there's just no space there. Mint didn't have a right to take that room, but he did give it a valiant effort. Drivers certainly looking to find a gap on the inside, seeming to be the favorite to overtake. iRacing Noob critically falling out to the Mercedes down the straightaway as well. He is now P7 behind Taylor McKenzie. F4 now back on the back end of iRacing Noob as well. Finds himself P8. We do see a DRS train off the kick Sauber now all the way down to P8. Mint just all over the rear end of the Red Bull so far. The Haas falling out to last place currently. We might see a move coming down the back straight as Mint is awfully close to the Red Bull. He might want to hold off until he does the move after the DRS straightaway, as that would be a very easy place for Dior to fight back, and I think Mint will be too far back to try and make a move here. F4 on the back of iRacing Noob quite a lot now. We'll cut back ahead to the two cars leading. Yes, F4 closing awfully quick. We might see him jump out from the inside. He does send a dummy, but it looks like iRacing did not fall for it. Coming down the main straight now, Mint looking to have the move again. I think we'll be too far back this time around. He does take an earlier entry just in case Dior does go wide. He closes that gap very nicely, but it's not enough as we see a double wide coming into turn 1 and 2. The McLaren gets ahead of the Kick Sauber and the Ferrari gets ahead of the Aston Martin. Now iRacing Noob will want to hang on to the back of F4, so wait for him to open up a overtake on the car head, as that Kick Sauber possibly has just gone off. No, he does hold it, but there will be an opportunity for F4 here to get a move done on the Kick Sauber as he's looking for anywhere to go around, but the Kick Sauber just leaving no space for him. Goes wide again. This is what I was talking about. Those medium tires fall off of that first stage of grip very early on and settle in later on, and that is what we are seeing. We are seeing on the Kick Sauber those medium tires failing early and have yet to settle in, as F4 possibly opening up the door for iRacing Noob to get in and pass the Kick Sauber. My team have a faster lap time. Okay. Coming through the corners, it looks like iRacing Noob fighting a lot of understeer. That Kick Sauber backing into Deathwing now. Deathwing possibly looking for an overtake on the Aston Martin as he was struggling through that understeer. Ahead, Mint had gotten past Dior on that back straightaway. We were paying attention to these guys a little bit too much. Mint now the race leader. Dior looking to fight back, but the DRS chooses the outside. Mint left the inside open, and Dior just goes around the outside beautifully into turn 1. Very nice, very nice. F4 getting a move done on the McLaren has climbed back up to P5. This is what we are seeing from the hard tires on lap 5. They are firing up. Deathwing getting through iRacing Noob on lap 1. iRacing Noob not having any of it. Looks to the inside, looks for a switchback. He is sniffing the exhaust of that Mercedes currently. As the Kick Sauber goes wide, lets through quite a few numbers of cars. Is at threat to Iceman. Iceman down the inside coming up the end of the hill. Moski now P10. I think he lost about 4 positions there. Deathwing off the DRS of the McLaren head. iRacing Noob will want to get through as fast as possible to try and get up to him. F4 now 4 seconds to the Mercedes Baja ahead in P4. Taylor McKenzie hanging on to the DRS of the Ferrari if he can hang on just for a few more corners. As Moski picks up a 3-second time penalty for track limits, first to do so. We saw him struggling very much on those tires, possibly at threat to TD behind coming up. Looking up, Mint might be scaling for an overtake if he can deploy enough battery. Go ahead and pull up some telemetry as that was disabled. Always forget that it auto disables it for the race. iRacing Noob, I think too far back to make a move, but I think this is going to be close heading into turn 1. I think he will be safe from any threat behind. Yes, he is. That Alpine certainly gaining on him, though. Aston Martin, with only 1 car in the race, will certainly want at least a P5 finish, and will have some work to do if they want to get that done. When will we see the medium tires really start to fail? We saw it happen to the Kick Sauber already, but when does it happen to the McLaren ahead? That will be critical. As well as the top 4 on the mediums with F4 on the hards behind, closing the gap to 3 seconds already to Baja ahead. Mint still just hanging on to the back of Dior, wanting to try and get an on-track position. He could try and go for an undercut if he wanted to. I think we might see some strategy call for the race lead at some point during this race. I do not see these two pitting on the same lap. They could do a mutual agreement, but who wants to do it that way? Mint opting to not take a wide entry, and just in case if Dior went wide, it looked like. He's very smart and is waiting for that door to be opened up. Too far back this time around, I think, to send it into turn 1 as he does back off the ERS and just closes the gap through the braking zone. It will be very interesting with these two going to the end. Like I said, it is a lot harder to overtake here than in China. China has a very long straightaway and 2 DRS zones, where here we have one very short one. So it'll be very interesting to see where the drivers can get moves done. iRacing Noob now on the back end of the Mercedes again, still looking to get the overtake done. The Mercedes of Deathwing with more ERS than iRacing Noob is currently holding on to P7, 2 seconds off the McLaren ahead, as TD had gotten through the kickstopper as the kickstopper had gone off and kept it going, so there is no safety car. That man finding himself a comfortable podium so far. He will have F4 hunting him down by the end of the race, but there is no bad position there as Mint sends it down the inside of the double left-hander as they go too wide. That was a very nice move from Mint. Dior tucks in behind the Alpine. Dior will have the DRS. It was very interesting for Mint to get the move done there. And Dior does have double the DRS of the Alpine as he is giving him a nice little bump of speed. He certainly backed off at the end of that straight with the slipstream. He will have plentiful amounts of ERS compared to the Alpine ahead that is currently leading the race, almost 3 times as much. As we see what will be probably the easiest overtake for Dior so far out of the race. He goes around the outside, tucks it back into the racing line. Mint fighting back though on the outside to inside. We'll see who can hold as much speed as they can. Mint could have another chance coming up the hill, but I think we'll be too far back and we'll be fighting the wake of the car ahead. Iceman tucked into the back of the Aston Martin of iRacing Noob. iRacing still not able to get the overtake done on Deathwing. Baja losing out a position to F4, it looks like, on the main straight. Is now P5, 4 seconds ahead of the McLaren of Taylor Mackenzie. Taylor finding themselves with a pretty good race after starting pretty far back. We did note how aggressively turned in that McLaren was on the grid, and it looks to have paid off. Iceman looking to get by iRacing Noob, just waiting for a mistake. iRacing Noob, Iceman, and Deathwing all on the R tire have now caught up to the McLaren of Taylor Mackenzie on the medium tire. This will be very good for Deathwing as he will have the DRS to fight iRacing Noob behind. iRacing seeming to not have the pace as of yet on this span of tire life compared to Deathwing though. Mint possibly scaling up an overtake again. We're seeing a lot of front tire drag on the Alpine so far. He might be too far back, but if he gets a better exit, he could have this move done. Looks like Dior got a pretty good exit. Also, might I say, Mint is out of ERS. And Dior both out of ERS coming down the main straight. Both really fighting each other and having some good pace. Mint unable to find the 1-lap pace, but is certainly finding the race pace over Dior here. As we see Baja into the pits, he is the first in the pits on the medium tire. That will certainly be a 2-stop. Lap 9 to lap 27 would be a hell of a 1-stop. 18 laps on the hard tire. So we did question, when do we see the medium tires start to fail? I think this is it. 9 laps in, we did see the graining on the front tire of Mint. We're actually seeing a fair amount of graining on the Mercedes, who is on the back end of the McLaren. So I think we're going to see tire advantage hards now, as yes, we are seeing this very, very unequal pace gap in these two cars currently. Mint 2/10 off the back of Dior, might be having the move done before the DRS straightaway if he can get a good exit and find the grip on those award mediums. To get the 1-stop, 27-lap race, thinking, what would you want, lap 12, 13? I'd say 11-12 is going to be your pit window, as we do see iRacing Noob going wide on these 1 hards. Iceman unable to capitalize on it. Mint only a tenth off the back of Dior, dives into the pits. Mint unhappy with those tires. We might be seeing a lot of two-stops. So we did say we would see a possible undercut from drivers. He could possibly take those tires to the end, but you are really going to hate them. If you hate those mediums now, wait till the hards on 17 laps. So, like we said, we might see a strategy call for the race lead as we see Iceman tucked behind the Aston Martin trying to find a place to go around. He just does not have it. Deathwing also trying to get by the McLaren. The McLaren backing this field up crucially for any of their chances at a podium if the top three were to mess up. We are currently seeing a Red Bull 1-2 with Dior and I That Man currently running P1, P2, F4 on a provisional podium. Though after the pit window, we will see the Hasadami has now retired from the session within the pit lane. Not a good first race from them. They showed good pace, but just couldn't hang it out during the race. F4 within DRS of I That Man. He had a comfortable race, and now there is a monster in his rearview mirror. This McLaren has dropped a second off the gap of the car ahead of F4 so far since 1 lap time. This Mercedes is going to want to get by as soon as humanly possible. They are just losing out too much time for a potential surprise podium. As we see iRacing Noob finally losing out a position to the Alpine of Iceman. Iceman finding a nice spot to overtake. F4 looking to have them moved on this Red Bull quite soon, as we saw the Mercedes going down the inside of the flat out corner. I That Man into the pits. He is the first of the Red Bulls to do so. Moski picking up another time penalty. Deathwing finally getting through the McLaren. iRacing Noob into the pits on the hard tire. iRacing Noob 10-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That will be this Aston Martin's race ruined there. I'm not quite sure why he did decide to go into the pits on the hard tire, but he did. That will certainly be disastrous for him. Unable to get those tires to last, he will certainly be switching to a two-stop on a 10-second time penalty, so he will hope for at least maybe a P8. He could squeeze out P6, but it will be difficult. Iceman now looking to get through Taylor McKenzie. Iceman's teammate Mint fighting for the lead. Needs to get through this DRS train as quickly as possible if he wants a chance to undercut Dior. This will play out beautifully for the Red Bull as Mint is currently being held up by this DRS train. He will hopefully be telling his teammate to let him through here for the best chance to do so, but I don't think that looks to be happening. Mint will be losing out crucial time to Dior and possibly fall out of the DRS. This will also be wailing on his tires harder than he needs as Iceman does cut to the inside to let his teammate through finally. Dior yet to pit, as we do see, I think F4 is not pitting either. Dior doing 12 laps now on the medium tire. That is a very, very good stint from him. And he can do this stint as well, seeing as how Mint is in this DRS train and will lose out on the potential undercut as the McLaren dives into the pits and the Alpine dives into the pits. And Deathwing as well, who was ahead of them all, went in. So we are seeing now pretty much everyone on the mediums coming off except for that of Dior. Dior and Moski. Moski did a stop early on for some reason, and they are the only two drivers out on original mediums so far. iRacing Noob getting through that DRS train with an undercut though with a 10-second time penalty and having to do a two-stop now. Deathwing opting for the medium tires will be doing a two-stop as well as Iceman. There's no way that they can get those tires to go all the way, so most drivers going for the two-stop except for it looks to be MLB The Show, F4, Dior, and possibly Mint going for the one-stop. It will be difficult, but they could do it. Looking around, I'm not seeing many drivers in the DRS of the car ahead. They are kind of smoothing out now and on awkward pit windows, as there was a lot of undercuts, a lot of early pits, and a lot of late pits. F4, 6 seconds off of Dior. That is for track position as well, both on different strategies. Currently, F4 taking a lot of curb and cut in the corner a fair amount as Dior is into the pits off those medium tires. So we will see now where Mint ends up. He needed to get the undercut done. I think he should still have it in the bag quite easily, but he definitely lost a second or two staying behind all those drivers. He certainly got a very good gap out of it, but he certainly lost out on a fair amount. TD now behind Dior. TD going awful wide. I was going to say if he could stay behind him and get a possible overtake done, that would be very good for F4. Dior 5 seconds off of Mint. He should be able to catch up quite rapidly. He's on the hard tires, so it will take longer to fire up, but he should be able to catch up as Mint is on a little bit older hards, I believe. Yes, 3-lap old hards, and they will not be very comfortable at the end of this race. Deathwing within the DRS of iRacingNoob, who is on a hefty penalty. Mint 10 seconds off of F4. F4 with his pit, I think would fall around Baja, I believe. Most heat 20 seconds off the back end of the field. I believe he had made an extra stop there and came off. Yes, he did come off those mediums that he pitted early for. Deathwing falling out of the DRS of iRacingNoob now. So when does F4 pit? We have a couple of hard tire runners that are going long. Both the Ferraris, and that's it. Both the Ferraris are looking to go long. I'd say lap 16 is about your pit window if you want to be on comfortable mediums. You could go 14 or 15, but if you still have some tire life in those hards, you could definitely do 16. But we should be seeing them come in a couple laps time. They have a comfortable gap to do a double stack as well if they were to want to do so, which I would probably suggest. No safety cars, so that kind of ruins the medium runners' hopes and two-stop hopes at a safety car. There could still be one later on in the race, but there currently isn't. The Red Bull of I That Man on the back of the Ferrari, and Deathwing on the back of the Aston Martin coming through the S's. I That Man having the tire advantage over the Ferrari, gained quite rapidly and should have this move done quite easily as he closes the gap through the braking zone, picking up a better exit, and should have a well-rounded move done in just a short moment. Red Bull looking for some very good points here today as the Ferrari does fall off track going wide on the exit and will be at victim to Baja and the Mercedes behind Baja. Very excited to see that, and will be looking for a P5 finish or a P4 finish based off where F4 comes out. Baja and his teammate Deathwing both looking to have a possible overtake done this lap. We might be seeing the Ferraris come in as F4 does stay out, and we will see if TD goes in. Dior falling off the back of Mint by a second. Mint having more pace on the used hards. This might be the fire up advantage that we were talking about earlier in the race. Thank you for the subscription, Lord. We appreciate it. As we do see TD staying out, that might be a team call from Ferrari. As we see Baja jetting to the outside and will whip around through turn 1, and he gets comfortably ahead of the Ferrari. Now his teammate Deathwing on the Aston Martin will look to do the same. It looks to be a very nice Mercedes double overtake into turns 1 and 2. Mercedes will be very happy with that one. So like I was saying, critically, this is what Mint is going to want. He sees Dior falling off the back and himself catching F4. Dior picking up the pace since we called him out for being slow, has now picked up half a second to Mint. This is what we were talking about with the tires of the hards. So what we see is 2 laps for Dior on the hards, and he is now finding the pace. It takes a few laps for them to fire up, and once they do, you have a fair amount of pace, which we saw Mint having the pace when Dior didn't. So that is very nice for Mint's race, and a possible chance at another win in this series, and first win for the season. iRacing holding on to the back of the DRS of the Mercedes, still with that 10-second time penalty though, will be critical for his race. We'll see if F4 dives in the pits. He does not. He will be taking these hards very, very long. His teammate possibly coming in. We can try and see through the braking zone how much tire drag the Ferraris are dealing with on these hards. As yes, we are seeing a very large amount of graining on both tires. At least, this is what I like to say. If you damage your wing or you wear out your tires, at least do it equally, so that it's equally screwed on both sides. iRacing still in the DRS of Deathwing, but too far back for a chance at an overtake. It's also out of ERS. Both drivers are out of ERS. Dior finding equal pace for the rest of the lap to Mint. Maybe Mint just had a little mistake and lost half a second, but currently that gap is holding. That man, Dior's teammate, 6 seconds off the podium, but would get the podium with F4's stop. F4 falling further and further back the longer he waits to make his one and only stop. I believe that man is on a 2-stop. He's on 5-lap old hard, so he pit on lap 11. He could definitely take them to the end. Baja will be on a 2-stop, and the drivers on the medium tires will be on a 2-stop. So we will see where they all end up. iRacing Noob closing up the gap to Deathwing ahead, but in no position for an overtake yet. Charging up the battery from both the Mercedes with more than the Aston Martin. Everyone now kind of equaling out pace. 2 drivers yet to stop, the 2 drivers being both Ferraris. F4 staying out again. Surely we see that that Ferrari come in this lap. So we see no action going on as of yet. TD as well stays out. He will be looking to possibly pit this lap with his teammate. Surely those tires feel miserable. They could also be waiting for a potential safety car, but there is no drivers in positions to go side by side to cause a safety car currently. So all the 2-stoppers and the long runners are going to be quite frustrated. By that man having a comfortable provisional podium, 6 seconds off his teammate and 4 seconds to the car behind Baja, seemingly closing the gap ever so slightly lap by lap. As I say that, it does actually open up by 2/10. So I had that man looking for a potential pretty safe podium. Red Bull currently leading the constructors after round 1, would still be leading after here today. Let's take a look at the gap to the leader. So I want to see where F4 would fall. I think he falls behind Baja. He might actually be behind, he might be at threat to Deathwing. As we do see him pit, we will see if Deathwing is able to come through, at least on the back end of F4, the race leader. So Mink goes through, and here comes Dior. I think Deathwing's going to be too far back to get through. I think it's going to be Baja that gets through, and that'll be it. Dior, that man, and I think it's a race to the end of the straight with Baja. As yes, we do see F4 come out just ahead of Baja, so he should have P4 comfortably in the books and will be hunting down the podium from that man. That man, we said, had a comfortable podium in the bag, now will not. MLB opting to not pit and is currently at threat to Deathwing for on-track position, backing him up heavily through the S's. And now iRacing Noob critically is on scene. This will be very good for him. As Deathwing looking to move down the inside, the Ferrari cuts him off. Deathwing nowhere to go. It's very tricky to get an overtake done there. Deathwing will certainly be frustrated as this Ferrari does not have the pace today and does not have the tires compared to these two. He is definitely struggling to get the move done and defend from iRacing Noob. We did see the Ferrari go off right there, allowing Baja, the other Mercedes, to go through. Does not this time. This little DRS train for P6 has certainly been fighting slower paced drivers all race so far and will be very frustrated with yet another one. These are guys that are wanting to just get through and have it done and carry on. But now Deathwing will be at threat to iRacing Noob once this overtake is in the books. We'll see. It looks to be he is backing off his ERS and holding out the overtake for the main straight, or for him to wait to pit. It could be a good call to wait for him to pit, but you will be racing this guy if you make another stop. And Dior critically has picked up a 3-second time penalty. That is not good for that Red Bull. He currently is safe with that time penalty, but F4 will be catching and chasing Dior for that P2 position, especially after finding out he has picked up a time penalty. iRacing Noob now in the back of the Mercedes with new hope for a on-track P6, but with that time penalty it would still lose out. TD pits, Iceman also pits, Iceman getting his second stop done. Now, if you are on a two-step, you will be wanting to get this second stop done quite soon, so that way you have time to overtake on track. People that will want to do a two-stop, I could take these hard tires all the way to the end. He won't like them, but with Deathwing and iRacing Noob having to make a probable second stop, I think you will be pretty safe. I would wait to see if they stop. If these guys take their tires to the end, go ahead and take yours. I think that's where Baja's at. You respond to the two cars behind. That is who your race is with, if they make a stop. Taylor McKenzie could find themselves with a pretty good points finish if those three drivers do choose to pit, and Taylor does not. TD now 20 seconds off of P8 with Iceman 4.4 off of him. Not quite sure what happened to Iceman's race. He has found himself quite a ways back. F4 now within half a second of that man as F4 sets the fastest lap of the race. F4 hunting down the Rebels as he goes off into turns 1 and 2. He picked up the curb, had nowhere to turn, and could not rotate the car and goes off. That is very, very good for him as we see Deathwing and iRacing Noob into the pits. Now it is up to Baja to decide if he wants to respond to this. If you respond, you will lose out a position to the McLaren, but will the two behind have the pace to get up to him? Honestly, I don't think so. It's an 11-second gap to the McLaren. The McLaren would hold them up. I think Baja stays out. You saw F4 go ultra long on his stint. I think you can go long as well. There's no reason to not. iRacing Noob serving his penalty finds himself P10. Yeah, I think Baja can stay on these. You're good. So long as you don't get a puncture, you're going to hate him, but it's 11-second gap to the car behind that will be holding up the Mercedes of Deathwing, your teammate, might I say. So even if your teammate is able to pass you, it's not that big of a loss. Obviously, you are racing your teammate. Your teammate is your biggest rival, but in the big scheme of things, I don't think it's worth it. His teammate also 27 seconds off of him with 6 laps to go. I think Baja just takes him to the end. F4 looking to have his podium position secured going down the inside early on with I That Man, no way to answer, no ERS, no DRS, just flipping it on and off for no reason at this point. F4 looking to hunt down a 5-second gap to Dior to get within that 3 seconds. Dior 4.6 off of Mint. I think Mint should have the win in the bag so long as he can keep it between the lines, as Mosia picks up a third track limit time penalty. F4 already closing the gap quite rapidly to Dior. He could find himself with a on-track position. Iceman picks up a time penalty, which will be very good for iRacing Noob if he can get within that. Baja still out on track, has grown the gap to the McLaren behind by 12 seconds. Currently, no one fighting on track. This is all strategy as it is. Baja and 12 lap old hards. If he goes to the end, that will be around 18 lap old hards. I think that will be the longest stint done on the hard tire, but I think it will still retain for P5 finish. Only one DNF of the night of the Haas Dami making, or I've been saying Dami, but it's Dom CYR. We're just gonna switch that to Dom. Dom making his debut, found himself starting P4 with a pretty good lap time compared to the top fielders. Has now found himself out of the race after making contact with F4, falling behind, spinning a second time, and has retired. This might be one of the shortest stints done by a Haas driver if he withdraws from the league. iRacing Noob closing the gap so far, under 4 seconds now to Iceman, but he needs that to be under 3 to pick up 9th position. The only running Aston in the race without quads as teammate. That man 2.5 off of F4, had F4 now at 6.4 to Dior, has been chasing that Red Bull. We said that the mediums fire up very easily and fall off very easily, so it will be a question of, with the last few laps, if he can retain that 3-second gap to the Red Bull. Not quite sure as to who to watch, as we don't really have any on-track action going on anymore. Baja still maintaining the gap to the McLaren behind. How old are the McLaren's tires? The McLaren is on 10-lap-old hards to Deathwing's 2-lap-old mediums. Deathwing closing the gap quite quickly. I don't know if he will be able to get the McLaren on track. TD and the Ferrari has been closing the gap to the Mercedes slowly. The Ferrari finally finding some pace in this race, is closing the gap to get into the DRS of the Mercedes for P7. Iris Noob slowly easing in to the Alpine to try and pick up another position. Coming down the back straight, MLB is out of DRS of Deathwing, so we will see down the main straight if he does have DRS to start closing that gap seriously. 4 laps to go in the Japanese Grand Prix. F4, like we said, he would have the pace early on and that they would fall off, and it looks like, as I said, that they would fall off. They have, as he's now gone from a 6.4 second gap to only a 6.1, and closed that gap up by 2 seconds in a couple laps time, and it's now just lost all that pace advantage to the hard tire. We said that the tires would be doing this throughout the race, and that is what we are seeing. TD now dropping 1.5 off the back of Deathwing. Deathwing possibly locking in and picking up the pace. He thought he might have just had a cruise to the end. It looks like Baja's tires might be falling off as the McLaren closes the gap by 2 seconds, but there is still a 10.6 second gap to the Mercedes ahead. Interestingly enough, the gap to Baja to P4, 10 seconds. From Taylor to Baja, 10 seconds. From Deathwing to Taylor, 10 seconds. So there's quite an interesting spread in the drivers currently. TD currently falling off the back of Deathwing even more. I do not think he will be a threat to the Mercedes ahead. Deathwing possibly managing the tires better and holding on to that golden zone of the medium tires that they have early on. Dior closing the gap to Mint will not surely matter. He is closing the gap, of course, to defend from F4 behind. F4 within 6 seconds. Needs to be within 3. It needs to close up another 2.8 seconds with only 3 laps to go on some more mediums. I do not know if that Ferrari will have the pace to take P2. Deathwing within 10 seconds now of the McLaren ahead. Deathwing shouldn't be able to get that on-track position, but he will be defending from the Ferrari behind. iRacing Noob settling in on these new tire life mediums. It's now 4.2 off of Iceman ahead on the same medium. Coming uphill at the end of the S's with the McLaren now, just looking to make it to the end for a good P6 finish. And that man, the previous race winner, off the podium, but still a strong P4, which will be very good for Red Bull, especially if Dior can secure P2 from F4. Drivers now, if you look at the track map, are paced out like they are about to set a quali lap, the closest car being TD to the Mercedes. The McLaren now dropping 10 seconds within Baja, and Baja falling off the back of that man in the Red Bull. Deathwing picking up a 3-second time penalty. Will need to put his foot to the floor to get 3 seconds ahead of TD. Both of these drivers will be flat out to the end now. Baja, we said, would want to do that one stop, being that he wouldn't have to fight from behind, and it's looking to be true so far. He will certainly hate those hard tires, but those hard tires will give him another P5 finish. I believe he finished P5 last race. Let me check real quick. That might not be right. Let me check. Let me see. Race results. It was Baja P5 in China, yes. So it would be very good for Mercedes and Baja to have double P5 finishes. TD now 2.6 on the back of Deathwing. Like I said, both these drivers will be flat out to the end with Deathwing's time penalty. iRacing Noob looking to try to get within Iceman's He's currently at 3.6 to him. Iceman also closing up the gap to TD, having put his foot to the floor. And TD possibly making a mistake as F4 takes up a time penalty. There goes his chances at getting Dior. Dior closing the gap to Mint. We might see him within the DRS on the last lap, but it will not matter with him and F4's time penalty. Mint being the cleanest and most consistent driver out there so far tonight. TD possibly making a mistake, was over 3 seconds to Deathwing, now 2.7. iRacing Noob finding himself with a mistake as well, drops on 3 seconds behind Iceman to 13. These guys are not liking those medium tires. All of them now picking up time penalties and making mistakes. Dior really picking up the pace to Mint. We said that we would see the tire advantage to Dior at the end, as Mint did pit 3 laps earlier, and Mint was in traffic on his early stages, almost within 2 seconds to the race leader. TD 2.5. Deathwing needs to find a bit more time. He has a lot of ERS that he is looking to burn up on these last couple of laps to get that gap that he needs to hold on to P7, which will be a good points finish for Mercedes. Dior kind of pacing out. Mint now is holding around 2.2 the gap. Mint seeing that and possibly picking up the pace as he looks to start the final lap of the race. TD bouncing in and out of the 3-second gap to Deathwing. They both have a massive amount of ERS as Mint starts the final lap of the race with Sasuke Dior in his rearview mirror on a time penalty, as well as F4 on the time penalty. Interestingly enough, F4 3.9 to Dior possibly could have had P2 if he did not pick up that time penalty himself. Dior 1.7. It looks like it might be advantage Dior heading through the S's, which quickly cuts back to Mint for the rest of the lap. We might be seeing a lot lower of wings on the Alpine than that of the Red Bull, is what that would be telling us. Ferrari of TD still 2.5 to the Mercedes ahead. The Mercedes with a lot of ERS where the Ferrari does not. He will certainly be looking to do a qualifying lap here with that ERS to get that gap to 3 seconds. I think Deathwing could hold out to P7, but that will be a drag race to the end based off the time penalties. Dior 1.5 to Mint. We said we might see him within DRS at the end of the race, but it would not matter, and that is looking to be true. F4 almost within that 3-second window will certainly be punching his wheel in frustration with that time penalty. MLB, aka TD, now 3.8 to the Mercedes. We said we would need to see a qualifying lap, and that is looking to be true. As we see Mint coming into the chicane one last time on some pretty decently old hard tires as he comes down the hill, accelerates violently and cuts the early apex. He crosses the line to win the Japanese Grand Prix, followed by Dior, and rounding off the podium is F4. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we will be seeing that podium quite often this season. Mint doing 18 laps on the hard tire. Baja about to cross the line will also do 18 laps. That man in the Red Bull 2 Dior did 17 laps. Baja staying out, doing 18 laps, the same amount of Mint. TD now 4.3 on the back of Deathwing. Deathwing still with a boatload of VRS is just gapping the Ferrari behind. Very nicely done from him as Baja stays. Actually, he did the longest stint, like we guesstimated, of 19 laps on the ARC tire compound. Like we said, he would absolutely hate those. Deathwing crosses the line, P7, and will hold that position to the Ferrari of TD, who will finish P8. The Alpine of Iceman P9, and iRacing Noob somehow made another mistake in the Aston Martin, 22 seconds off the back of the Alpine. This will certainly be a frustrating race weekend for him to forget. As my cats now have the zoomies and have stormed into the room. Congratulations to Mint for P1, Dior to P2, and F4 to P3. Like I said, when Mint crossed the line, I think we will be seeing that podium quite a few number of times throughout the season. Congrats to Baja as well to taking those hard tires 19 laps through Japan. That is certainly impressive, as he was questioning taking the softs. Go ahead and take a look at the race stats. We see Mint once again on the top step, first time for the season after disqualifying out of China. duo as well on the podium for the first time. See a pretty wide mix-up. Actually, no, it's not a wide mix-up. It's two drivers. Race winner, Mint, fastest lap, F4. Driver of the day, Mint. Most overtakes goes to F4 after he did fall out. That is the second time we have seen F4 fall out and then come back to the podium. Cleanest driver goes to Mint. We did say he had a very clean, very consistent race. F4 taking a pretty strong fastest lap, being the latest to pit as well. Looking down, biggest positions gained goes to Taylor from P11 to P6. Baja P7 to P5. His teammate P8 to P7. No. No, Red Bull did not in fact win. It was Mint who took the win. Your team did take a P2 and P4, which is... Oh, wait, you're the... Okay, I thought you were the Red Bull TP. Okay, you're the Alpine TP. Okay. I thought that you were Red Bull. My bad. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the Discord to see what everyone is bitching about, because that does always happen. Just waiting for it to load me out of the lobby. Yes, your team is Alpine. There's an incredibly long stream delay that I've still yet to figure out why it's doing. I think it's because of the start procedure, but yeah, it's not very cool. Okay, there we go. I finally loaded in to leave. We'll just take a quick look at the interview room and stuff. We won't do a ton, as that was not per se DLR's most exciting race, might I say. Taking a look through the Discord first. Iceman celebrating his reserve finish in P9. Very good from him. He was reserved for Kick and China. Find some extra points for Alpine without Nora in the race. Deathwing enjoying the race as well as McLaren F. Taylor. Both drivers getting some good points. F4 also enjoying another recovery drive. Okay. We'll go ahead and bring Baja in here. It seems like no one else is really waiting. Baja. Ah.
What?
You sound sleepy.
I'm tired.
I bet those hard tires that you were on were tired.
No. I could save 3.
You could have what?
I could save them for lap 3 if I have to.
Oh, really? So it wasn't on super bad degradation by the end of the race?
No, they were, but I'm just...
Well, it was a good result, a second P5 in a row for you. That is exactly what Mercedes is going to want. Were you very happy with your result, or do you think that there was more to extract?
No, and the qualifying...
What's that?
I gained 3/10.
Okay.
In the qualifying lap, I gained like 3/10 on the first sector.
Okay.
And had a lot of ERS, but I invalidated.
Oh, no.
So... Yeah, it was like I could have been like 8/10 up. I would have started B4 or B5.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
still a good result to be happy with. Were you questioning a two-stop at all that race?
No, I was hoping for the guys in front to do another stop.
Yeah, there wasn't too many two-stoppers. I believe all the two-stoppers ended up being behind you. I think the only one ahead of you was F4.
I actually was planning for a two-stop before the race.
Okay.
But when I saw my hards, like in the middle of the stint, it was like really little. So I say, yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
Really doing the longest stint on
like
hards.
They were going to explode, and yeah, they were gonna explode, but I kept going.
Okay, well that's good to hear. This is a good result for Mercedes. Were you talking with your teammate Deathwing at all during the race?
Fuck no.
No? The team principal?
No one.
Okay. Well, it was certainly a good finish
Yeah,
for
we
Mercedes.
have shitty... like people in the Mercedes garage, man. They don't tell me.
Okay. Well, I believe that should move you guys past Aston Martin in the Constructors' Championship. Let me just take a look. The Constructors. So you guys are P4, and with that finish, I think you will be on the cusp of being past Aston Martin for P3 in the Constructors and be behind, I believe, Ferrari. I think is a guesstimate, a good guesstimate, but still just a guess.
Yeah, I don't know where did the Aston Martin guy finish.
He was P10. He really struggled at the end.
Yeah, so we get past them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, you will for sure pass Aston Martin, but I think you will be behind at Ferrari in the championship, which is a good result for you guys.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for your time, Baha. I think everyone is tired and worn. That was honestly kind of a weird race for me to commentate. There wasn't a whole lot going on at the middle to end. So thank you for the quick words, and we will wrap up for the night.
Yeah. Thank you. Good night.
Yep, see ya. Okay, and with that, I think we're gonna wrap up. There wasn't really any action going on. Um, None of the podium sitters. F4 typically doesn't do the interviews. It's quite late for him. We have never spoken with Dior, and who's Mint also we haven't spoken with. So I don't think we'll be getting any of them tonight. This has been DLR's round two in Japan. We have where does that leave us in the drivers' championship? So Mint wins. Did I miss anything, Seshwarma? You missed about the race. I think that about sums it up. I think I That Man, or I think F4 might pass I That Man in the championship? Question mark. It's a 7 point gap. F4 finished P2, his P4. Huh. What? I'm trying to think of the points difference. I think it's like 5 points. I actually hold on to the lead of the championship. Mint will shoot up the order around P4ish, P3. I think it'll be P3 for Mint in the championship. iRacing Noob might fall out to a couple of drivers as well. But yeah, Shorma, you missed essentially everything. Honestly, not the most exciting race. It was pretty good in the beginning. 12 drivers, one retirement. Middle to end, got quite slow. But other than that, pretty clean race. So you can't really complain all that much.